It took my parents exactly 3 minutes on speakerphone to erase 6 years of my life. They forgot one detail. I know how to read contracts, screenshot bank apps, and pull county records at 2 a.m. By the time my sister's Uber rolled up to her new house, the locks were changed and the cops were waiting. They thought I was still the daughter who just said okay. They didn't know I'd brought a lawyer and receipts. My name is Vivian Harper. It is late on a Tuesday night in Spokane, Washington, and the city is washed in the cold, wet glow of November. My key finally finds the lock to my apartment, a small one-bedroom rental that always smells faintly of my downstairs neighbor's cooking. Tonight, it's garlic and something burnt. I drag myself inside, my body aching with the specific, dull throb that comes from 11 straight hours of Zoom meetings. I'm a remote UX lead for a wellness app called Aurora Well. I spend my days designing interfaces meant to help people find calm, balance, and mindfulness. Most days, I feel like a fraud. My shoulders are concrete knots, my eyes burn from staring at code and client feedback, and my brain is just static. I drop my keys on the cheap particle board console table. They land with a clatter that sounds too loud in the silence. All I want is the half-eaten container of leftover pizza in my fridge and a full 8 hours of unconsciousness. I'm 32 years old, and my biggest fantasy is a silent night. My phone, sitting on the table, lights up before I can even take off my coat. The screen flashes Mom. A little spike of automatic guilt hits me. I should have called her Sunday. I swipe to answer, pressing the phone between my ear and shoulder as I bend to unlace my boots. Hey, Mom. Sorry, Vivian. My hands freeze on the laces. Her tone stops me cold. It's not her warm, hi, honey voice. It's not her passive-aggressive, I guess you're too busy voice. This is her public voice. This is Diane Harper, former PTA president, addressing the school board. It's formal, practiced, and utterly devoid of warmth. Mom. Is everything okay? Is Dad all right? Your father and I are fine, she says. The words clipped. We're on speaker. Russell. Say hello to your daughter. I hear a muffled clearing of a throat in the background. Hi, Viv, my dad's voice says, already weak and distant. Vivian, my mother continues, taking back control. Your father and I have had a very long discussion, and we've made a decision for the family's future. I straighten up, my coat still on. The phrase hangs in the air, heavy and ominous. A decision. What kind of decision? Did someone get sick? Nothing like that. It's good news. Really. Your sister is coming home. I can hear the forced brightness, the public relations spin. Mia. Back from Austin. That's great. When she and Adam are driving back next week, Diane says, he proposed. They're engaged. Wow. Okay, I say, trying to process. That's fast, but good for them. Yes, Diane says. And there's a pause. I know that pause. It's the sound of a hammer being drawn back before it strikes. They need a place to start their new life. Vivian, a real home. So, we've decided that the house in Evergreen Heights is now Mia's home. The words don't make sense. They float in the air of my tiny apartment, colliding with the smell of garlic. What are you talking about? I ask. What house? The house. Vivian, the family house, she says. Her voice laced with manufactured patience, as if I'm being deliberately slow. The 4-bedroom. It's perfect for them to start a family. My blood runs cold. I slide my phone from my shoulder and stare at it, as if seeing the speakerphone icon will make this make sense. Mom, I don't understand. What do you mean it's Mia's home? It means, she says, her voice hardening, that we are giving it to her, and we need you to vacate. Vacate. My voice sounds thin. I don't live there. I live in my apartment. I haven't lived in that house in almost a year. We're not talking about your apartment, Vivian. We're talking about your things. We are giving Mia the house, and we need you to get your belongings out of it. All of them. My stomach drops. She's not talking about the boxes in the attic or my old high school trophies. Mom, I say, my voice dangerously quiet. Are you talking about the house I've been paying for? A sharp sigh cracks over the speaker. Vivian, please do not be dramatic. We always knew this was a possibility. Mia needs this. She needs the stability. The stability. I almost laugh. What about my stability? What about the money I put into that house? The roof? The kitchen? The wiring? I just paid the contractor for the bathroom remodel last month. And we are very grateful, Diane says, her tone suggesting anything but. You should be grateful, too. You had a place to pour your money into, and you got to stay so cheap for so long before you got your little apartment. Stay cheap. I didn't stay there. I moved back in 6 years ago to save that house because you and Dad were going to lose it. I gutted it. I rebuilt it. I've been paying every bill, every tax, every repair from my salary for 6 years. I can hear my dad's voice in the background, shaky and desperate. Diane, maybe we should talk about the money, Russell. We decided, she snaps, cutting him off. We are doing what's best for Mia's future. Mia is getting married. She needs this. You, she says, her focus snapping back to me. You work from a laptop. You work for that little wellness app. You can live anywhere. Don't be selfish. Vivian, family comes first. Before I can scream, before I can cry, before I can even breathe, she says, we'll expect you to have everything cleared out by Sunday. That gives you 5 days. That's more than fair. Out of respect for your sister's new start. We're telling her tonight. And then she hangs up. The click of the disconnected call echoes in the room. I stand in my hallway, my coat still on, my boot half unlaced. The silence is deafening. 5 days. She said 5 days. She's giving away the house I saved. The house I own. Don't I? My phone buzzes again, and I jump, my heart leaping into my throat. Maybe it's Mom, calling back to say it was a sick joke. But the screen says Mia. I press the green button, my hand shaking. Viv. Oh my God. Mia's voice, bubbly, breathless, and completely, utterly oblivious, fills my ear. She's calling from a car. I can hear road noise and bad pop music. Did Mom tell you? Can you believe it? I'm engaged. Adam is just, like, the most amazing man ever. And we're coming home. Hi, Mia, I manage. The words taste like ash. So, listen, she barrels on, not even pausing for a reply. We're so excited. Mom and Dad are giving us the house. Can you believe how generous a whole house I'm finally going to have a place to put all my stuff? I can't speak. I just listen as the sister I've been supporting for a decade talks about the gift she's receiving. Anyway, she says, I know you're living in your own place now, which is super cute, but you still have a ton of stuff at the house. Right, Mom said you'd be clearing it out this week. Could you do me a huge favor? Can you make sure the master bedroom is totally cleared out first? Adam's really sensitive to dust, and I want to get our new mattress in there right away. My body goes numb. The phone feels heavy. A block of ice pressed to my ear. Oh, she says, as if just remembering. And whatever you do, please don't pack up the big projector in the basement or the surround sound. Adam and I are obsessed with movie nights, and he was so stoked when I told him we already had a system. He's going to love it. I bought that projector with my first bonus from Aurora. Well, I spent 2 weekends running the speaker wire myself. Mia, I start, but my voice cracks. Gotta go. Viv signals breaking up. See you on Sunday. We're driving straight to the house. She hangs up. I drop the phone. It hits the cheap laminate floor with a flat, plastic thud. My legs give out. I don't fall so much as fold. I slide down the wall, my coat bunching up around my hips, until I'm sitting on the floor of my entryway. The numbness recedes, and the panic floods in. It's a cold, suffocating tide. 6 years. 6 years of my life. 6 years of saying no to vacations, no to new cars, no to moving to a bigger city. 6 years of pouring every spare dollar and every weekend into a sagging, leaking, dying house. I fixed the roof. I rewired the entire second floor. I designed the kitchen. I patched the drywall. I bled on that house, and they're just giving it away, like a used car. They're discarding me. I wasn't a daughter helping out. I was a placeholder tenant. I was the one who kept the asset from collapsing until the real, preferred heir was ready to claim it. I sit there, on the floor of my tiny rental, for a long time. The panic is so loud it's almost silent. I can't breathe. I can't think. And then, a new thought cuts through the fog. It's cold and sharp, like a shard of glass. They're giving away a house I paid for. But how? How can they just give it away? People can't just give away a house they don't own. I have the receipts. I have the invoices. I have the bank transfers. For the first time in my 32 years of being the good daughter, the guilt I'm supposed to feel, the selfishness, the lack of family spirit, it isn't there. In its place, something new and unfamiliar is rising. It's suspicion. Sitting on my apartment floor, the linoleum cold beneath my jeans, the past doesn't just surface. It crashes into me. The phone call didn't start this. It was just the end of a play that's been running for a decade. I remember coming home when I was 23. My design degree so fresh, the ink on the diploma was practically wet. I'd landed my first full-time job at a small local marketing firm. I was proud. Walking into the Evergreen Heights house, the real one, the one that was still sagging under its own weight back then, I was ready to celebrate. Maybe go out for dinner. I found my mother, Diane, at the kitchen table, buried in a stack of coupons and bills. "Mom, I got it," I said, waving the offer letter. "Full salary, benefits, starts in 2 weeks." She barely looked up. Her pen was circling a 2-for-1 deal on paper towels. "Good," she said, her voice flat. "Now you can help with the real bills." That was it. No congratulations, no hug. Just a new column in her ledger. 1 week later, my sister Mia, then 19, wrapped her used sedan around a telephone pole. She'd been at a party, gotten drunk, and decided to drive home. She was fine. Physically, the car was totaled. I braced for the fight, the consequences, the grounding. Instead, I watched my father, Russell, his face pale and shaky, co-sign a loan with my mother for a brand new, gleaming white SUV, for her safety. My dad kept muttering, as if the pole had attacked her. "She needs a safe car." And just like that, the pattern was set. I moved into my cramped childhood bedroom, the one with the faded glow-in-the-dark stars still on the ceiling, and started paying half of all the household bills. My salary, which I had been so proud of, vanished into a joint account for the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries. Mia, meanwhile, was a glittering whirlwind of potential. She bounced from city to city, funded by internships that seemed to pay nothing but required a fabulous wardrobe. Her Instagram was a curated feed of glamour rooftop bars in Austin, music festivals in Nashville, sunset yoga on a beach in Miami. I'd be scrolling through her life on my phone while sitting in my car at a Spokane grocery store, trying to figure out if we could afford the name-brand milk or if we were a generic brand family that week. Then, 6 years ago, the real crisis hit, the one that, I see now, was the trap closing. I came home from work to find both my parents at the kitchen table, looking gray. This time, there were no coupons, just official-looking letters from the county and the bank, fanned out like a losing poker hand. My mother was actually crying, real, silent tears tracking through her foundation. "We're going to lose it. Viv," my dad whispered, his voice cracking. "We're going to lose the home you grew up in." The roof was leaking. Badly. The wiring, they'd been told, was a fire hazard. The plumbing was backing up into the basement, and they were behind, dangerously behind, on property taxes. The bank was threatening foreclosure. My mother looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. It was the most vulnerable I'd ever seen her. "We just need some help," she pleaded, "just to stabilize things, just to get back on our feet." The request was explicit. They didn't have the credit or the income to get a loan for the repairs. But I did. "If you could just move back in." "Temporarily," Dad said, leaning forward. "Just for a year. Maybe. If we could use your salary to fix the roof and catch up on the taxes, we could get ahead of this. We just need a little boost." Temporarily, that was the word they used. A life raft, not a life sentence. So I did it. I gave up my own small apartment, the one I'd had for a few years, and I moved back into the house. Temporarily became permanent so fast I didn't even see it happen. The repairs weren't small, they were catastrophic. The roof wasn't a leak. It was a full structural failure. It cost $18,000. The bad wiring wasn't a few frayed cords. It was a complete gut job. The plumber took one look at the main stack and just laughed. That was another $26,000. Gone. And the kitchen. My God, the kitchen. It was a dark, cramped nightmare from the 70s. My mother had complained about it my entire life. So, I redesigned it. I took it down to the studs. I told myself it was an investment. $40,000, my entire savings, and then some. I spent my weekends not at bars with friends, but at hardware stores, comparing grout prices. I learned how to patch drywall, how to lay tile, how to install a dishwasher. My hands were perpetually cracked and stained with paint, and I kept records. I'm a UX designer. I live in spreadsheets. I kept meticulous track of everything. Every contractor invoice, every Home Depot receipt, every single bank transfer from my personal account to the house fund. A few times, usually after a massive bill was paid, I'd try to breach the subject. Mom, I'd say, we should probably talk about, my stake in this. Maybe we should put my name on something. She would brush it off with a laugh, like I'd told a silly joke. Oh, Vivian, don't be so cold. You're not a landlord. You're family. We don't put blood on paper. This is your home. My home. It never felt like mine. It felt like a job site. Meanwhile, Mia would video call from a boat in Florida or a ski lift in Colorado. You're so good with money. Viv, she'd chirp, her face tan and smiling. I'm just hopeless with all that adult stuff. It's amazing what you're doing for Mom and Dad. I'd be sitting on a drop cloth, covered in sawdust, skipping another vacation to pay for their new roof, and I'd just smile. Someone has to be the grown-up. Mia. Twice, I was offered promotions at work, big ones. One was in Seattle, one in San Francisco. Both would have doubled my salary. Both would have required me to relocate. I brought the Seattle offer to my parents, thinking maybe this was my chance. Maybe they were finally stable. My mother's face crumpled. Seattle, she'd said, her voice trembling. You'd leave us now. After everything, we're not as young as we used to be. Vivian, your father's back as well. Leaving now would be like abandoning us. I guess we just have to sell. The guilt was a physical thing, a hand closing around my throat. So I stayed. I turned down Seattle. I turned down San Francisco. I told myself that loyalty was more important than ambition. And under my hand, under my spreadsheets and my sweat, the house transformed. The sagging, leaking relic became a Pinterest-worthy craftsman. I refinished the hardwood floors myself, sanding them down until my arms felt like they would fall off. I designed and paid for custom-built open shelving in the living room. I put in a deep farmhouse sink. I installed a smart thermostat. I paid for all of it. I see it clearly now. Sitting here on my floor, I see the whole con. I wasn't a daughter. I was a resource. I was the walking, talking life support system for the house, for my parents' comfort, for their financial security. I was the dependable, boring utility, and Mia was the brand. She was the one they had to keep polished, the one who reflected their success back at them. She was the investment in their image, while I was just the one paying the interest on their bad decisions. And now, the house is fixed. It's valuable. It's beautiful. And the brand is ready to move in. The utility is no longer required. I finally get up from the floor, my knees cracking in protest. The numbness is gone, replaced by a cold, vibrating anger. I grab my phone, my fingers fumbling with the screen. I can't call my parents back. I can't talk to Mia. I need someone who speaks my language, the language of facts and logic, not the twisted dialect of family first that's always meant Vivian last. I open my voice memos and hit record. I just start talking, pacing the tiny confines of my living room, the words spilling out in a torrent of disbelief and fury. I detail the phone call from my mother, the 5-day deadline, Mia's bubbly request for my projector. I explain the 6 years of work, the roof, the kitchen, the wiring. I probably sound hysterical. A woman pushed past her breaking point. The voice message is 7 minutes long. I send it to Tessa Grant. Tessa has been my best friend since college. We survived a brutal design program together, but where I went into the soft, subjective world of user experience, she went for the hard lines of the law. She's a real estate and estate planning attorney in Seattle now, and she's as sharp as a box cutter. My phone doesn't buzz with a text back. It rings. Instantly, I answer it, and I don't even get a, "Hi, how are you?" "Vivian," Tessa's voice says. And it's not my friend Tessa. It's Tessa Grant, Esquire. The warmth is gone, replaced by a focused, professional chill that I have, on occasion, been grateful for. Stop talking. Start listening. First question. And it's the only one that matters right now, whose name is actually on the deed to that house. I stop pacing. I sit down hard on my sofa. "I don't know." "What do you mean?" "You don't know." Her voice is incredulous. "I mean, I've never seen it." I say, the admission feeling stupid and naive as it leaves my mouth. "I've seen the utility bills, obviously. I paid them. I've seen the home insurance forms, the property tax notices. I don't think I've ever seen the actual title or anything like that. Any trust documents? Anything about your parents' estate? No." I say, my voice small. She just handled that stuff. She said it was private family business." Tessa is silent for a beat. I can hear her typing, the rapid, sharp click of her keyboard. "Okay, Viv, here's what I'm thinking. You have been paying for structural renovations, capital improvements, and property taxes for 6 years. If this were any other arrangement, you'd be a part owner. The fact that no one, especially your mother, has ever mentioned putting your name in writing isn't just an oversight. It's a strategy. They've been deliberately keeping you in the dark." A cold knot forms in my stomach. She's right. "I need you to go on a scavenger hunt," Tessa says. Her voice all business. "I want every single document you have that relates to that house. Scan it and send it to my secure email. I want tax notices, insurance policies, repair bids, contractor invoices. I want the bank transfers. I want screenshots of your banking app showing the transfers you labeled house fund. I even want any texts you have where they talk about the money. Anything where your mother offers to reimburse you someday. Do you have that stuff? I have all of it," I say, my voice hardening. "I have spreadsheets." "Of course you do," Tessa says. It's the first hint of our old friendship in her voice. "Good. Get to work. I'm going to start pulling public records on my end. This stops now. For the next 3 hours, my apartment becomes a war room. I fire up my old desktop scanner. I pull out the physical files I kept in a filing cabinet under my desk, the binder for the kitchen, the folder for the plumbing, the massive bulging accordion file simply labeled house, taxes, insurance. I scan page after page, invoices from Spokane Roofing, receipts from Evergreen Electrical Supply, bids from Hartford Sons Plumbing, my life, reduced to a pile of PDFs. Then I go through my email, searching for keywords, house, insurance, policy. I find an email from my mother from 4 years ago, when I was shopping for a better home insurance rate. She'd forwarded me the current policy. I open the PDF. It's a standard declaration page, but the name listed as the insured party makes me pause. It's not Diane and Russell Harper. It's the Harper Family Revocable Trust. "Tessa," I say. My phone pressed to my ear. I'd called her back. "I found an insurance policy. It says the owner is the Harper Family Revocable Trust. What does that mean?" "It means the house isn't owned by your parents directly," Tessa says, her typing speeding up. "It's owned by a legal entity. Your parents are likely the trustees, the managers of the trust, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are the beneficiaries, the people who get the stuff. Send it to me, now." I email the file. There's a problem. Though, I say, scrolling, the PDF. It's missing the last page, the one that usually lists the schedule of beneficiaries. It just stops at page 5. "Convenient," Tessa mutters. Okay, I'm looking at the part you do have. She goes quiet, reading. This phrasing is odd. Page 3, it mentions successor beneficiary and some age contingencies. That's specific language. It doesn't specify Mia's name anywhere. Though, does it know? I say. Reading it with her? Nowhere. Diane and Russell may have tried to seal or obscure parts of this trust, Tessa says, thinking out loud. If they created the trust, they could have tried to amend it, but if someone else created it, they might just be trustees with limited power. I'm going to have to make a formal request to see the full document, and I'm pulling the county records electronically right now. Something isn't right here. Viv, we hang up, and I turn to the last, most painful task, the money. I log into my banking app. I set the filter on my checking account, searching for every transfer I ever made to my parents' joint account, every payment to a contractor. I sit there, on my couch, as the numbers pile up. $18,000 for the roof, $26,000 for the wiring and plumbing, $40,000 for the kitchen, $5,000 for the new water heater, $2,000 for the driveway reseal, and the monthly payments, for 6 years. I'd been sending them $1,500 a month. First, it was for the repairs. Then it was for the taxes. Then it was just helping out. I pull out a calculator. I don't need to. My design brain, the one that lives on data, is already doing the math. $130,000. That's what I've spent. Over $130,000 in cash, poured directly into that property. That's not counting the furniture I bought, the appliances, the projector Mia is so excited to use. It doesn't count the 2 promotions I turned down. It doesn't count the thousands of hours of my own labor. My hands are shaking. I print every bank statement, every transfer confirmation. I spread them all out on my tiny apartment floor. The papers cover the cheap laminate, from the kitchen to the front door, and for the first time, I'm not seeing emotional narratives. I'm not seeing helping the family. I'm not seeing being the good daughter. I'm seeing line items. I'm seeing interest rates I could have earned. I'm seeing a down payment on my own house, a real one, not a trap. I'm seeing 6 years of my life, quantified in dollars and cents, and it's a staggering sum. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. I snatch it, thinking it's Tessa. It's a text. It's 1:17 a.m. The text is from Tessa. Something's off. I'm looking at the county title report. There was a transfer of a home equity line 2 years ago, a HELOC, for $120,000. But you said they were still paying off old debt back then. I stare at the text. A line of credit. A home equity line of credit. The words lodge in my mind like a splinter of ice. 2 years ago. That's when they told me they had a medical debt from my dad's back surgery that their insurance wouldn't cover. That's when I bumped my monthly help from $1,000 to $1,500. A rising dread. Cold and acidic. Burns in my throat. What if they borrowed against something? What if they borrowed against something that wasn't even theirs to borrow against? I didn't sleep. I don't think I even blinked. I spent the night on my sofa, staring at the pile of receipts and bank statements spread across my floor. The words, home equity line, echoing in my head. My apartment, which had always felt like a temporary, cramped compromise, now felt like a prison cell. The sun came up, casting a weak gray light over the mess of paper, and I felt as sick as I'd ever been. My phone rang at 8:15 a.m. It was Tessa. I put you on speaker, I said, my voice a dry croak. I'd already been pacing for an hour, my bare feet wearing a track in the carpet between the sofa and the wall. Good, Tessa said. Her voice was different. It wasn't just her lawyer voice. There was something else beneath it, a low, controlled burn. Are you sitting down? You should sit down. I'm pacing. Just tell me. Okay, I'm at the Spokane County Recorder's office. I pulled the full, unredacted trust. I have it in my hand. Vivian, all 20 pages of it. I stopped pacing. And, Tessa said, taking a deep breath. The house in Evergreen Heights did not belong to your parents. Ever. It belonged to your maternal grandmother, Eleanor Hart. My heart skipped. Grandma Eleanor. She was a no-nonsense bookkeeper, a woman who had taught me how to balance a checkbook when I was 10 and how to read a W-2 form when I was 16. She was the one who bought me my first savings bond. She'd passed away almost 8 years ago. My mother, Diane, had been a wreck, but had handled the entire estate so no one else had to worry, 8 years before her death. Tessa continued, her voice clear and precise over the speaker. Eleanor created a living trust. She put the house into it. She named Diane and Russell as trustees. Yes, but that's all. They were the managers. They were given the right to live there, to maintain the property, as long as they were married and paid the taxes. But, Viv, they were not the beneficiaries. My mouth was dry. Who was the beneficiary? The trust stipulates, in clear, unambiguous language, that on the 30th birthday of her granddaughter, full ownership of the property, 100%, transfers to Vivian Elaine Harper, in fee simple, unencumbered. The air left my lungs. I sank down onto the floor, my back hitting the arm of the sofa. The papers on the floor crinkled under me. Tessa, my 30th birthday was 2 years ago. 2 years and 3 months ago, to be exact. Tessa said, translation, Vivian, for the past 2 years, you have been the sole, legal, and undisputed owner of that house. Your parents have known it. They've been living in your house, all while pretending it was theirs to give away, all while letting you sink your life savings into it. The phone call from my mother replayed in my head. We need you to vacate. We are giving it to Mia. They weren't just being cruel. They were lying. A deep, calculated, long-term lie. But that's not the bomb. Viv, Tessa said, her voice dropping, and my blood ran even colder. That's just the setup. I clutched the phone, my knuckles white. The HELOC, she confirmed. I'm holding the filing. 2 months after your 30th birthday, 2 months after ownership legally transferred to you and their trusteeship dissolved, Diane and Russell Harper walked into a bank. They used the house as collateral and opened a home equity line of credit for $120,000. But how I whispered, they couldn't. I was the owner. They signed the papers as if they were still trustees with full borrowing authority. They used the old, incomplete trust documents, the ones missing the beneficiary page, the one your mom conveniently emailed you. They didn't inform you. They didn't inform the bank of the ownership change. They lied. Vivian, they committed bank fraud. $120,000, the exact amount of the emergency debts and old medical bills that had suddenly appeared 2 years ago. Tessa, I said, my voice shaking so hard I could barely form the words. I've been paying them $1,500 a month, for 2 years. They told me it was to help them catch up. They told me it was for Dad's back, for tax arrears. Vivian, Tessa said, and her voice was heavy with a sorrow that cut through the legal anger. You haven't been paying off their old debts. You've been paying the interest and principal on a fraudulent loan they took out against your asset. They've been using your money to cover up their own crime. Every dollar you sent them was just cleaning up their mess, making it possible for them to keep the lie going. My knees buckled. I was already on the floor, but my body just collapsed. I sat there, curled up, clutching the phone as my entire life story violently flipped, torn from its bindings and rewritten. I was not the ungrateful daughter. I was not the selfish workaholic. I was not the one who didn't understand family. I was the victim. I was the primary victim of a calculated, multi-year financial con, perpetrated by my own parents. A memory, sharp and clear, cut through the shock. I'm 15, sitting on Grandma Eleanor's porch. I was complaining about having to babysit Mia for free, again, so my parents could go to a dinner. Grandma Eleanor was balancing her checkbook, her pen making sharp, decisive marks. She didn't look up, but she'd paused. Vivian, she'd said, her voice gentle but firm. You're a good girl. You're a strong girl, but you have a soft spot, and people who know you, they know where it is. She'd finally looked at me, her clear blue eyes locking onto mine. You need to be careful, honey. Some people see you as a safety net, not a person. And a safety net is only valuable when people are falling. They'll keep falling, just so you'll keep catching them. I'd been catching them my whole life. And now, They'd cut the net and were trying to steal the pieces. Vivian, are you there? Tessa's voice snapped me back. I'm here, I whispered. Good, Tessa said, and her voice was hard now. All traces of sorrow were gone, replaced by steel. Because here is what happens next. They didn't just lie to you. They committed actual, real-world, go-to-jail bank fraud. And now, they are attempting to illegally evict the rightful owner of a property they have been defrauding for 2 years. You are not moving out. Vivian, you are not packing a single box. A new feeling was spreading through my chest, pushing out the cold shock. It was hot, and it was moving fast. It wasn't just anger, it was something solid. You are shutting them down. Tessa finished. I stood up. My legs were shaky, but they held me. I looked at the papers on my floor, my receipts, my bank statements. They weren't a record of my foolishness. They were a record of my investment. They were evidence. Something in my mind finally, irrevocably snapped into place. It wasn't the sound of braking. It was the sound of teeth on a gear locking in, of a machine engaging. For my entire life, I had been waiting for them to give me permission to be proud of myself, permission to have my own life, permission to say no. I realized, standing there in my tiny apartment, I didn't need their permission for any of it. For the first time, I wasn't asking myself if I was allowed to stand up for myself. I was asking myself with a cold, terrifying clarity. How hard did I want to hit back? I'm clearing my schedule, Tessa says. Her voice is a blade. I'm still on my apartment floor, but her energy is pulling me up. I'm moving my Monday depositions. We are going full scorched earth. Vivian, but legally, the best revenge is an airtight case file. What does that mean? I ask. My voice is still hoarse, but the tremble is gone. It means we are not defending. We are attacking. I'm starting a shared Google Doc right now. I'll put the strategy in it. You and I are going to live in that document for the next 48 hours. Your parents gave you 5 days. We're going to use 3. My email pings. A new document. Project Evergreen. The first move is the most important, Tessa says. We secure the asset. When are they not at the house? I need a guaranteed window. My brain, which has been fogged with guilt and confusion for a decade, suddenly clears. It becomes tactical. Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. From 2 in the afternoon until at least 5. They have their weekly church commitment. Mom runs the bake sale committee, and Dad does the books. They are never, ever late, and they never miss it. Perfect, Tessa says. I can hear the sharp click, click, click of her keyboard. I'm arranging a certified locksmith to meet you at the house at 2:30. You are going to take back your property. I'm sitting in my car, parked half a block down from the Evergreen Heights house, my house, at 2:28. A white van pulls up to the curb. I get out and meet the man. I show him my driver's license and the notarized copy of the full trust document, the one Tessa emailed me, the one I had printed and stamped at a UPS store at 8 a.m. He looks at the document. He looks at my ID. He nods. All right. Ms. Harper, where do you want to start? Front door, I say. Then the back, the garage keypad, the side door to the mudroom, all of them. The sound of his power drill biting into the front door lock, the one I'd painted a calm, welcoming blue myself, is the most satisfying sound I've ever heard. While he works, I walk through the house. This is not the walk of a daughter staying with her parents. This is the walk of an owner inspecting an invaded property. My energy is different. The air feels different. I'm not a guest. I'm not a caregiver. I'm the proprietor. I go to the kitchen. I run my hand over the quartz countertop, the one I'd saved for a year to install. My countertop. I open the custom-built pantry, the one I'd designed in a UX program on a Sunday afternoon. My pantry. I walk to the basement. I see the projector and the surround sound system. Mia's movie night. My system. I pull out my phone. I don't take sentimental photos. I take evidence. I go to the laundry room and snap a high-resolution photo of the serial number on the washer. I do the same for the dryer. I go back to the kitchen, open the cabinet under the sink, and take a picture of the invoice for the dishwasher, the one I'd taped there for warranty purposes. I photograph the serial number on the smart fridge. I take hundreds of photos. I document every appliance, every light fixture, every window treatment I paid for. I find the file with the contractor invoice for the roof, tucked away in the office, and I take a picture of that, too. I text Tessa. I'm in. I'm taking photos of everything. Should I start moving the small stuff, the projector? Her reply is instant. No. Do not touch a thing. Leave everything. The furniture, the TV, your decor, all of it. The house must look exactly as it does now when the showdown happens. We want them to walk into a trap they don't know is a trap. Just secure the locks, install the new toys, and get out. The new toys are in a bag at my feet. A smart doorbell and 2 small, powerful Wi-Fi security cameras. As the locksmith finishes the garage keypad, I install the smart doorbell. I sync it to my phone and share the access with Tessa. I place 1 camera on the porch, hidden in a hanging plant, aimed at the front walk. I put the second in the living room window, aimed at the driveway. From this moment on, we will see them before they see us. I pay the locksmith. He hands me a ring of 4 new, shining keys. They feel heavy, solid, real. When I get back to my apartment, the adrenaline is still pounding. My phone pings. An email from Tessa. She's been busy. FYI, she writes, I have just filed a formal fraud report with the bank that issued the HELOC. I attach the full trust, the county deed transfer, and a timeline. They are very interested. I've also sent a preliminary package to the State Attorney General's Consumer Fraud Division. We're building a paper trail that could choke a horse. My job is next. The emotional evidence. I sit on my floor, plug in my phone, and start scrolling. I go back 2 years. I gather every text where my mother and father framed the HELOC payments as something else. From Mom. June of 2023. Had to dip into that secret lifeline for your father. His back specialist is just robbery. Don't you worry. Though. Context. This matches the first $10,000 HELOC withdrawal. From Dad. August 2023. Viv, your mother is stressed. We're just trying to catch up on old debts so we can get straight. That extra $500 this month was a lifesaver. Context. The interest-only payment was due. From Mom. December 2023. The property taxes are just criminal this year. We're scrambling. Context. I had already paid the property taxes directly. Myself. This was a lie. This was for the HELOC. I screenshot every single one. I open the Google Doc. I upload them, tagging each with a date and context. I see the narrative they built, the web of lies designed to frame their fraud as my family obligation. Thursday, 24 hours to go. Tessa calls. I just spoke to a friend of mine in the Spokane PD. She says, he agrees. This has all the makings of a bad domestic dispute. He is strongly suggesting a civil standby for Friday morning. He's going to arrange it. 2 officers. Present at the property at the scheduled arrival time. They won't take sides, but they will be there to prevent violence and keep the peace when Mia and your parents arrive expecting access. Violence. The word hangs in the air. Do you really think Vivian... Tessa says, her voice flat. You are about to tell your mother, a woman who has built her entire identity on community standing in that house, that she's a fraud, and she has to leave. Yes, I think... We are not giving them the opening. The police will be there before they arrive. By Thursday night, my apartment floor is clean again. All the loose papers, all the old receipts, are gone, in their place. Sitting on my coffee table is a single, thick, 3-ring binder. I bought it at the office supply store an hour ago. It's heavy. I made a cover page, the evergreen property documentation. I divided it with tabs, color-coded, Tab 1 Trust, the full, unredacted document from Grandma Eleanor. Tab 2. Deed, the official county record showing the transfer of ownership to Vivian Elaine Harper 2 years ago. Tab 3. HELOC, the fraudulent loan application, the withdrawal statements. Tab 4 Receipts, the big one, the kitchen, the roof, the costs. The plumbing, $18,000, $40,000. Tab 5 texts, every screenshot, printed in color, with my annotations. Tab 6 emails. I run my finger over the last tab. A simple white sticker with one word typed on it, in bold, receipts. A small, exhausted smirk touches my lips. It's the first time I've smiled in 2 days. I fall asleep on the couch, my hand resting on the binder. The dread is gone. It's been replaced. I have a profound, new thought in my head. They can call me selfish. They can call me ungrateful. They can call me a bad daughter. They can call me whatever they want. I have proof. Friday morning. I wake up not in my bed, but on the couch. My hand still resting on the binder. The adrenaline has settled into a cold, hard resolve. My phone buzzes on the table. It's not a call. It's an Instagram notification. Mia. I open it. It's a cheerful, filtered selfie of her and Adam, her fiancé, in an airport terminal. The text overlay is bright pink, back to Evergreen Heights, ready to move into our forever home. She's added a ring emoji, a house emoji, and a sparkle emoji. She tagged the town. My fingers are steady. I screenshot it. I forward the image to Tessa. Her reply comes back in less than 30 seconds. Perfect. Shows expectation of ownership they don't actually have. Establishes their intent. I'm on my way. See you at 10. I am at the Evergreen Heights house by 9:45. I park my car in the driveway. My driveway a spot I've never felt entitled to use before. The binder is on the passenger seat. I don't feel fear. I feel procedural. At 10 o'clock on the dot, 2 Spokane police patrol cars roll quietly up to the curb. My new smart doorbell camera pings my phone. But I'm already outside, waiting. The neighborhood is quiet, but not that quiet. I see the curtains twitch in Mrs. Hawthorne's window across the street. I see Mr. Henderson, 3 doors down. Pause his leaf blowing. This is Evergreen Heights. A public argument is theater, and the police are the opening act. 2 officers get out, a man and a woman. They look professional, calm, slightly bored. This is just another Friday for them. Ms. Vivian Harper, the male officer asks, approaching me. Yes, officer. Thank you for coming. My voice is steady. I've rehearsed this. We're here for the civil standby. Just to keep the peace. Can you verify you are the resident of this property? I don't just nod. I open the binder. I hand him my driver's license, the notarized trust document, and the county deed. According to this trust from Eleanor Hart, I say, ownership transferred to me on my 30th birthday, 2 years ago. My parents, who are the other parties expected, were the previous trustees. He scans the documents. His eyes move over the key phrases. He looks at my ID, back at the trust, and then at the deed. He nods, satisfied, and hands them back. Understood. Ms. Harper. You're the contact person for this call. We'll just stand by. They take up positions on the public sidewalk, visible but unobtrusive. They know the script. We wait for 11 minutes. At 10:11, I see it. My dad's oversized, gas-guzzling SUV. It turns the corner into the cul-de-sac, moving too fast. It's crammed to the ceiling. Suitcases, plastic tubs, a lampshade pressed against the back window. The SUV slams to a halt at the curb, parked awkwardly, half blocking the street. Mia bursts out of the passenger side before the engine is even off. She's wearing trendy leggings and a crop top. Despite the Spokane chill, God, that curb appeal is just sad, she says, loud enough for me to hear. She's talking to Adam, who is unfolding himself from the back seat. We have to paint that door. Adam, grab the big stuff. I want to see where the couch will go. My father, Russell, gets out of the driver's side. He looks exhausted, his face gray and papery. He sees the police cars, and he freezes. He stops dead, one hand still on the car door. He sees me. He sees the officers. He knows, but Diane doesn't. My mother gets out of the back seat, moving with the full force of her entitlement. She doesn't look at the police. She doesn't look at me. She is on a mission. She strides up the walkway, digging her old house key from her purse. Mia, stop ordering Adam around, she barks over her shoulder. We have to get the kitchen stuff in first. The movers will be here at noon. She reaches the front door. She jams the key into the lock, and it doesn't turn. I watch her face, the confusion. She jiggles the key, angry. She pulls it out, checks it, as if the key itself has betrayed her. She shoves it back in. Harder. The deadbolt. The new one I paid for. Holds firm. Russell, she yells, twisting the knob. This stupid lock is stuck. She slams her open palm on the door. The sound is flat and pathetic. It's not stuck. Mom. My voice cuts through the morning air. It's calm. It's clear. She spins around. Her face, which was flushed with annoyance, turns a dark, mottled red when she sees me. She finally registers the scene. Me, standing in the middle of the driveway, the thick binder under my arm, the two uniformed officers standing 10 feet away. Vivian, her voice is a sharp inhalation. What is this? What have you done? Mia and Adam have frozen by the SUV, suitcases in hand. My father is still clutching his car door, looking like he wants to be sick. What have you done? Vivian Diane repeats, her voice rising to a shriek. She stalks toward me, jabbing the useless key in the air. You changed the locks. You changed the locks on your own parents. I don't flinch. I don't move. You are committing elder abuse, she screams, pointing at me. That's what this is. We gave you everything, and you lock us out. You are stealing your sister's future. The male officer takes one step forward. Ma'am, I need everyone to step back. Let's keep our voices down. I will not keep my voice down. This is my house. She is stealing my house. Actually, it's not a new voice. It's Tessa. She has parked down the street and walked up. She is a vision of absolute intimidating competence in a sharp navy suit and heels that click decisively on the pavement. She carries a sleek leather briefcase. Tessa walks past my mother, past my father, and stops directly between me and them. She addresses the officers, then turns to my parents. Good morning, Tessa says, her voice polite but radiating ice. My name is Tessa Grant. I am counsel for Ms. Vivian Harper, the owner of this property. Diane scoffs. Owner. She is not the owner. We are... Tessa ignores her and pulls a folded document from her briefcase. Diane and Russell Harper, she says, her voice becoming formal. You are hereby served with an immediate no trespass order. As you are not residents, and you have no legal claim to this property, you are considered unauthorized occupants. You are ordered to vacate the premises immediately. If you attempt to enter the property, you will be arrested. This is insane, Diane is sputtering, looking to my father, to Mia, to the officers. Russell, do something. Officer, this is our house. We have lived here for 30 years. Ma'am, we're just here to keep the peace, the female officer says, her hand gesturing for calm. I step forward. I open my binder. I don't speak to my mother. I speak to the officers. Officer, I say, handing them the copies from the first 3 tabs. This is the full text of the Hart Family Trust, which established ownership. This is the county deed, confirming the transfer of ownership to me 2 years ago. And this, I say, tapping the last packet, is the paperwork for the $120,000 home equity line of credit my parents took out against this property after I became the owner. By signing as trustees, they were no longer... The male officer takes the stack. He starts reading. His eyebrows go up. He flips to the HELOC document, then back to the trust. He looks at the age clause, then at the timestamps on the loan. He whistles, a low, soft sound. I look past him, at Mia. Her face has drained of all color. She's white as a sheet. Her mouth is open. She's looking at my dad, who is now looking at the pavement, his shoulders slumped in total defeat. She's finally realizing this isn't a homecoming, this is an arraignment. Her big, gifted, forever home is the scene of a crime, and her parents are the perpetrators. Across the street, I see the red recording light of a phone. Mrs. Hawthorne, filming discreetly from her porch. My mother sees her too. The realization of a public audience seems to push her over the edge. You did this, she screams at me. The performance is back, but it's desperate now, playing to the neighbors, to the police. You ungrateful, selfish child. We did everything for you. We let you live here. We sacrificed for you. This house was always meant for Mia. It was always for the golden child. You were just the placeholder. She finally said it, the quiet part, screamed out loud for the whole neighborhood to hear. The male officer looks up from the papers, his face set. He's heard enough. Ma'am, he says to my mother, his voice now flat, official and final. I've reviewed the documents. According to this legally filed trust, this house has belonged to Ms. Vivian Harper, and only Ms. Vivian Harper. For the past 2 years, you have no legal right to enter this property. He gestures to Tessa. You need to speak to her attorney, but for today, you and your family need to get back in your car and leave. My mother's mouth opens and closes. No sound comes out. All the bluster, all the guilt, all the tears, they are useless. For the first time in my life, I am watching my parents' manipulation hit a wall that won't bend. It's a wall of facts, of police uniforms, of notarized signatures. I stand there, the binder under my arm, and I realize with a sudden, dizzying clarity that I never needed their approval. I never needed their permission or their blessing. All I ever needed was the truth and the receipts. The confrontation ended with my parents' SUV pulling away, slowly, like a hearse. My father didn't look at me. My mother's face was a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Mia was just gone, a ghost who had evaporated back into the car. I went inside my house, locked my new deadbolt, and sat on the floor of my kitchen, and I just breathed for an hour. The quiet, however, was temporary. The real fallout didn't start until Saturday. That's when the flying monkeys were released. My phone rang at 9 a.m. The caller ID said, Uncle Gary, my dad's older brother, a man I'd seen maybe 5 times in the last 10 years, usually at funerals or Thanksgiving, where he'd talk about his boat. I answered, bracing myself. Vivian, what in the hell is this? I hear. His voice was booming. Already at a 10. Your mother called me, beside herself. You locked your aging parents out of their own home. You put them on the street. What kind of monster did your grandmother raise? The old Vivian would have dissolved. She would have cried, apologized, and tried to explain, her voice trembling. The new Vivian picked up the binder from the coffee table. Hi, Uncle Gary, I said, my voice as calm as if I were asking him to pass the salt. It's interesting you call, because you might be able to help clear some things up. I didn't lock them out of their home. I secured my own. What are you talking about? Diane said you changed the locks and called the cops on them. That's correct. I said, I did, because the house was left to me, and only me, in my grandmother Eleanor's trust. I've been the sole legal owner for 2 years now. My parents were just trustees with the right to live here, and their trusteeship ended on my 30th birthday. There was silence on his end. I could hear his loud, boat show salesman breathing, and I continued, my voice level. I also called the police because, after I became the owner, my parents illegally took out a $120,000 home equity line of credit against my property. That's bank fraud. Uncle Gary, I have the trust, the deed, and the HELOC paperwork right here. Would you like me to email you copies? The bluster just deflated. It was like popping a balloon. She said you were greedy, he stammered, his voice dropping 5 octaves. She said you stole Mia's house. The house was never Mia's to steal. It was left to me. My parents just decided to give away something that wasn't theirs. I'm happy to send you the documents so you're not in the middle of this. It's all very clear, he coughed. Well, I must have the wrong information. I'll have to talk to Russell. This is well. He hung up. The phone rang again an hour later. Aunt Denise, my mother's sister. I didn't even wait. I just gave her the facts. The trust, the deed, the fraud. Her reaction was different. Oh, Vivian, she said, her voice dripping with pity that wasn't for me. That's all just paper. That's legal nonsense. The point is, they are still your parents. They raised you. They love you. How can you be so cold? How can you humiliate your own mother and father like that? In front of the neighbors, they humiliated themselves. Aunt Denise, I said, they're the ones who committed a crime and then lied about it. But family. Vivian, family comes first. You are going to regret this when you're older and you need them. Blood is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water, I replied, the words tasting like metal, but it doesn't make it legal to commit bank fraud. I have to go now. I hung up. After that call, I opened a new file in my Google Drive. Tessa's influence. It was a spreadsheet. I titled it Fallout. I created 4 columns. Caller. Allegiance. Mom/Dad. Narrative heard. And reaction to facts. Uncle Gary allegiance mom. Narrative Vivian is a monster. Reaction mortified. Backpedaled immediately. Aunt Denise allegiance mom. Narrative Vivian is cold. Grateful. Reaction doubled down on family and facts irrelevant. Tessa had called me Friday night, after the confrontation. This part is going to suck. She'd warned. They are going to deploy every relative they've ever spoken to. Let them show you who they are. This is all evidence of a pattern of manipulation. Don't argue with them. Just give them the facts. See who the facts stick to. It's a great way to clean out your address book. She was right. I started to see each call less as an attack and more as data. It was grimly satisfying. The real shift happened Saturday afternoon. I got a Facebook message from a name I hadn't thought about in years, Mrs. Hawthorne, my old neighbor from across the street, the one I'd seen filming from her porch. Her message was short. Dear Vivian, I am so sorry for what I witnessed yesterday. Your mother's behavior was appalling. I don't know if you've seen this, but someone posted my video in the local neighborhood watch group. You might want to look. The town is on your side. She included a link, the Spokane Neighborhood Watch Group. I clicked it. The post had been up for 18 hours. It had over 400 comments. The video was clear. A perfect shot from her porch. It caught everything. My mother, in her full-blown meltdown. Her screaming about me being an ungrateful child, and my crystal clear in the quiet of the cul-de-sac. Her shriek. This house was always meant for Mia. It was always for the golden child. You were just the placeholder. I watched my own life play out as a viral clip. I watched myself, standing there, calm, binder in hand. I watched the officer, his voice firm, tell my mother she had no legal right to be there. Then, I read the comments. The placeholder. She said that out loud. That poor girl, the one with the binder. Her composure is amazing. I'd be in jail for assault. I know that family. That's Diane Harper. She runs the church committee. What a hypocrite. She's always been so sanctimonious. This is the real her, I guess. So let me get this straight. The daughter in the suit is the lawyer. The daughter with the binder is the actual owner. And the parents are trying to give the house to the other sister who did nothing, and they committed fraud to do it. Am I getting this right? This is wild. My brother did this to me with my dad's car. It's always the responsible kid who gets treated like a utility and the fun kid who gets the rewards. Good on you, binder girl. Stand your ground. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. For every one comment from someone who knew them and said, this must be a misunderstanding. There were 50 from strangers, from neighbors, from other placeholder daughters, all saying the same thing. We see you. We believe you. What they did was wrong. My parents, of course, tried to spin the narrative. They went to church on Sunday, as they always do. They tried the possessed by greed story, but the video had already made the rounds. As Tessa had predicted, the church members, the ones who formed the core of my mother's social reputation, had seen the clip. They had heard golden child. They had heard placeholder. A few gently pushed back. Someone, I heard later, asked my mother if everything was all right with the house, but then Mrs. Henderson, who was on the building committee with my father, was not so gentle. In the middle of the post-service coffee hour, she walked right up to my dad. Russell, she said, her voice loud enough for the whole room to hear. I saw a very disturbing video. Is it true? Is it true? You took out a loan on property you didn't own? Because if you're handling the church's building fund, We have a serious problem. My father, I was told, turned the color of his cheap suit and resigned from the committee on the spot. But the final, most darkly satisfying piece of fallout didn't come from a relative or a neighbor. It came Monday morning, a quiet text, to my phone, from a number I didn't recognize. It was from Adam, Mia's fiancé, Vivian. I don't know what to say. I just saw the video. And Mia just told me the whole story. The HELOC, the trust. I didn't know any of this. I thought you were just being difficult. I am so sorry for what they did to you, and for my part in it. I stared at the text, unsure how to reply. Before I could, a second one came through. FYI, I am not marrying into that family. I'm out. I'm flying back to Austin tonight. She can keep the ring. I'm done. He dumped her. He dumped Mia via text. That night, after seeing the clip and, I assume, realizing what kind of debt and drama he was about to marry into, I put my phone down. I scrolled through the neighborhood watch comments again, through the messages of support from strangers, from other women who had been the family workhorse. I felt something I hadn't felt in my entire life. It wasn't just justice, it was community. It was the entire world, or at least the part of Spokane that had internet access, affirming that what happened to me was real, that it was wrong, and that, for the first time in my life, I was not the one at fault. The community support was a shield, but my mother was not done attacking. Humiliation, it turned out, was her rocket fuel. When the social fallout didn't bring me crawling back, she escalated from social pressure to legal warfare, or at least, her version of it. A week after the confrontation, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a deep professional voice introduced himself as Detective Miles from the Spokane Police Department. "Ma'am, I'm following up on a report filed by a Ms. Diane Harper," he said, his voice neutral. "She has filed an elder abuse claim, citing financial exploitation. She alleges that you have forcibly removed her and her husband from their home and are restricting their access to their own finances, rendering them effectively homeless." The audacity of it was almost impressive. She had taken her own actions and reverse-engineered them, casting herself as the victim. The old Vivian would have panicked, her voice shaking as she tried to defend herself against the word abuse. The new Vivian, binder owner Vivian, was just tired of her. "Detective, I appreciate you calling me," I said, my voice calm. I was at my desk in my apartment, in the middle of a workday. "I'm not surprised by this claim. It's retaliatory. The woman who filed it, Diane Harper, is my mother, and she is currently the subject of a bank fraud complaint that my attorney, Tessa Grant, and I filed last week. The house she's referring to is mine. It has been for 2 years, via my grandmother's trust. The financial exploitation she's talking about is likely her anger at me discovering the $120,000 fraudulent home equity line of credit she and my father took out on my property." There was a long, heavy silence on the detective's end. "Ma'am," he finally said, his tone shifting. "That is a significantly different narrative. I'm sure it is. Detective," I said, "if you give me your email address, I can forward you the entire package my attorney sent to the state AG. It includes the full trust, the county deed transfer, the HELOC application, and copies of the fraud report we filed with the bank. You'll find it's very thorough. My mother's story is, unfortunately, not based in fact." I gave him my email. He sounded a little stunned. I sent the entire Project Evergreen Google Doc, meticulously organized by Tessa. Less than an hour later, Detective Miles called me back. His voice was completely different. It was no longer neutral. It was sympathetic. "Ms. Harper," he said, "I have reviewed the files you sent. My apologies for interrupting your day. It's one of the more comprehensive evidence packages I've ever seen from a civilian. It's very clear who the actual victim of financial exploitation is here. So, what happens now?" I asked. "Well," he said, and I could hear the dry humor in his voice, "I'll be closing this elder abuse case, effective immediately, and then I'll be paying a visit to Mr. and Mrs. Harper to have a very serious discussion about the legal definition of filing a false police report. You won't be hearing from us about this again. Good luck to you." Ms. Harper, and nice work. My mother's first direct attack had been shut down in less than 90 minutes, but she wasn't just relying on the police. She was trying to fight my legal fire with her own. Tessa got the email first. My parents had hired Gregory Shaw, one of the most expensive and well-known estate attorneys in Spokane. He was the guy you hired when you wanted to contest a will and had a lot of money to burn. They were, apparently, spending their fraudulent HELOC money on a lawyer. Shaw's letter was formal and threatening. He was representing Diane and Russell Harper. They were prepared to contest the validity of the Eleanor Hart Trust on the grounds of undue influence. The letter strongly implied that I, Vivian, had somehow coerced my aging, frail grandmother into writing a trust that cut out her own daughter, Diane. I read the letter and felt a spike of pure, white-hot rage. Coerced Grandma Eleanor. She was the woman who taught me about budgets. She was the sanest, sharpest person I'd ever known. I called Tessa, furious. Can they do this? Can they just lie like this? Tessa actually laughed. It was a short, sharp, delighted sound. Oh, Viv, they have no idea. They just walked into the one part of this case where I'm completely untouchably bulletproof. I was hoping they'd try this. What do you mean Gregory Shaw is a good lawyer? Tessa said. He's also an ethical one. He's going on the information his clients your parents gave him. He assumes they are telling the truth. We are about to correct that assumption. I've been sitting on the Eleanor file since day one, she explained, the day she pulled the trust. She also pulled Eleanor's medical records for the 5 years leading up to her death and a detailed timeline. The trust, Tessa said, ticking off the points, was executed by your grandmother 8 years ago. Now, where were you 8 years ago? Vivian, I thought back. I was in my last year of college, in Seattle. I hadn't even graduated yet. Exactly, Tessa said. You were over 300 miles away. The trust was finalized 4 full years before your parents even asked you to move back to Spokane to help them with their finances. And according to these medical records, the year she signed it, Eleanor was in perfect health, aside from minor arthritis. Her hip fracture, the one you did move in to help her recover from, didn't happen until 2 years after the trust was already signed, sealed, and notarized. Tessa typed up a calm, polite response to Gregory Shaw. She attached her timeline. She attached Eleanor's clean bill of health. She attached my college transcripts and Seattle rental agreements. The message was clear. Your clients are lying to you. It took less than 24 hours. Gregory Shaw sent a curt, one-sentence email to Tessa, which she gleefully forwarded to me. It said, after a review of the facts, it is clear there are irreconcilable conflicts in this matter. My firm will be withdrawing as representation for Diane and Russell Harper, effective immediately. They had been dropped by their own hired gun. While my parents were failing at legal strategy, Mia was having a meltdown of her own. With Adam gone and her forever home revealed as a crime scene, she was, apparently, crashing on a friend's couch. My phone blew up with a series of long, panicked texts from her. It was a novel of self-pity. Viv, you have to help me. Adam's really gone. He won't even answer my calls. And my job. My boss saw that stupid video, the one of Mom screaming, and called me in. She said the drama is bad for their brand, and that they're downsizing. She fired me. Viv, I stared at the text. Bad for their brand. The irony was so thick I could barely breathe. Another text came through. I have nowhere to go. Mom and Dad are staying at some gross motel and they're freaking out. I can't stay with them. You have to let me stay at the house. Just for a little while. Just in one of the guest rooms. Until things calm down. Please, Viv. It's not my fault I just believed what Mom told me. I didn't know about the loan. Please don't punish me for what they did. There it was. The Mia I'd always known. The perpetual victim. And the old Vivian. The placeholder. The safety net. Would have caved. She would have said yes. She would have felt guilty that Mia lost her job. That Mia's fiancé left her. She would have taken her in. I typed one, clear message. I read it over twice. I am not responsible for fixing choices I didn't make. Please stop contacting me about housing. I blocked her number. My mother. having failed with the police and the lawyers, fell back on her oldest, most reliable weapon, public pity. She started showing up outside my apartment building. She wouldn't come in. She would just park her car across the street, in a visible spot, and sit in it, for hours. Sometimes, she would just stare at my window. Other times, she would put her head on the steering wheel and visibly, theatrically, sob. She was hoping, I knew, for a neighbor to see her. She was putting on a performance. Look at the poor, heartbroken mother, locked out by her cruel daughter. It worked. My next-door neighbor, a kind woman in her 60s named Brenda, knocked on my door. "Honey," she said, her face full of concern. "I don't mean to pry, but that woman in the car, the one who's been crying for an hour, is that your mother?" "Yes." "Brenda." "It is." I said. "Oh, you poor things," she said, her hand reaching for my arm. "It's just terrible. This family strife. She looks so heartbroken. Shouldn't you just go down and talk to her?" I looked at Brenda, this kind, normal woman, and I made a choice. I wasn't going to let the lie stand. "Brenda," I said, my voice gentle but firm, "my mother is out there because she's angry she got caught. She's angry because I discovered that she and my father committed bank fraud by taking out a $120,000 loan on a house my grandmother left to me. She's crying because I refused to let her and my sister kick me out of my own property, and because the police warned her about filing false reports." Brenda's hand, the one that had been reaching for me in sympathy, froze in midair. Her jaw dropped. "She what?" "It's a long story," I said, "but it's all true. She's not out there crying because she misses me. She's out there crying because she lost her leverage." Brenda's sympathy didn't just flip. It did a full 180. Her face hardened. She looked past me, at the car across the street. "Bank fraud," she whispered, outraged. "On her own daughter. Well, I'll be—" She patted my arm, but this time it wasn't pity. It was solidarity. "You stay strong. Honey, don't you let her bully you." My mother sat out there for another hour, but the audience was gone. Her performance was playing to an empty house. Every single manipulative play, the false police report, the legal threats, the flying monkey relatives, the public pity had backfired. With every move they made, they only strengthened my case and my reputation, while isolating themselves in the very community they had tried, and failed, to weaponize against me. After weeks of silence, after all the failed attacks, the next move was not an attack. It was a surrender. My phone rang on a Tuesday evening. The caller ID said, "Dad." I hadn't spoken to him since I'd watched him slump in defeat on the curb. I let it ring 3 times, took a breath, and answered. "Hello?" I said. Not "Hi, Dad," just "hello." "Vivian," he said. His voice was gone. The old, booming, cheerful Russell Harper was nowhere to be found. This was a thin, reedy, exhausted voice. "Vivian, your mother and this has gone on long enough." I waited. I didn't fill the silence. I didn't help him. "This is ridiculous," he continued, fumbling for words. "All this fighting, lawyers, it's not right. I was hoping maybe we could all just sit down, like adults, like a family, work something out before these lawyers ruin the family forever." Ruin the family. The family was already a crater, and he was the one holding the match. But I recognized the opening. This was the white flag. "What you're suggesting is a legal mediation." "Dad," I said, my voice cold and flat. "Are you proposing a settlement meeting?" He seized on the word. Yes, a settlement. No more fighting. Let's just talk." "I'll have my attorney contact you," I said. "Where are you staying?" He told me the name of the cheap extended stay motel they'd been in for 2 weeks. I said goodbye and hung up. I called Tessa. "He's cracking. He just called. He wants to sit down like adults." Tessa was silent for a moment, and I could practically hear her processing. "Good," she said. "He should be. The bank's fraud department has been calling him twice a day. He's scared. He's ready to deal." "So, what do we do?" "We agree," Tessa said. But on our terms, not at a diner, not at their motel, my office, my turf. I want them in my downtown conference room, the one with the big, intimidating table, and you and I will have an agenda, and Vivian, every single word will be recorded. The meeting was set for Thursday. They arrived at Tessa's downtown office building at 10 a.m. I was already there, sitting in the conference room with Tessa, a fresh pot of coffee, and a tray of untouched pastries on the sideboard. A small, discreet microphone was in the center of the table. Tessa and I watched on the security feed as they got out of the elevator. They looked small. My mother, Diane, who had always seemed to take up so much space with her demands and her drama, was hunched. Her clothes were a bit worn. Her hair wasn't perfectly coiffed. The confidence, the entitlement, it was all gone. Stripped away. My father just looked gray. Mia was not with them. We'd learned she had bought a one-way ticket back to Austin 2 days after Adam dumped her, wanting no part of the public embarrassment or the coming legal consequences. She had, as always, retreated to safety, leaving them to face the mess. They were led into the conference room. My mother's eyes darted around, looking for traps, her face a mask of sullen resentment. My father wouldn't look at me. He just stared at the polished surface of the table. "Good morning, Diane? Russell?" Tessa said, her voice bright and professional. She gestured to the chairs opposite us. "Please, sit. Coffee." They both refused. They sat down stiffly. "Thank you for coming," Tessa said, folding her hands on the table. "Vivian and I are glad you've agreed to this, as we all want to resolve this matter before it proceeds to a less pleasant and more public criminal venue." My mother flinched at the word criminal. "Now," Tessa said, "you're here because you wanted to work something out. Vivian has agreed to this meeting to offer you exactly one path to do so, a path that does not involve criminal charges." She slid 2 identical bound documents across the table. They were thick. "This is a settlement proposal, a non-negotiable settlement proposal. I should add." My father's hand trembled as he reached for his copy. My mother just stared at hers, refusing to touch it. "The terms are very simple," Tessa explained, as if she were discussing the weather. "First, you will repay the $120,000 you fraudulently obtained using Ms. Harper's property as collateral. You will also repay the $30,000 Ms. Harper can document she paid in contributions to you, which were in fact unknowingly covering the interest on your fraudulent loan. $150,000. My mother's voice was a hoarse whisper. "We don't have that. That's extortion." Tessa smiled, a cold, sharp, legal smile. "Extortion, Diane, requires a threat outside the bounds of the law. Everything I am proposing is rooted in existing, and very prosecutable, fraud statutes. This is not extortion. This is a restitution agreement. You have 24 months to repay the full amount." My father looked up, confused. "But we don't how." "We're aware of your financial situation," Tessa continued, cutting him off, "which is why the agreement stipulates that the house in Evergreen Heights will be sold. Ms. Harper has already retained a realtor. The first $150,000 of the proceeds will be placed in escrow to satisfy this debt. You will not see a dime from the sale." My father just looked at the table. He'd been beaten. "This brings us to point 2, Tessa said. "You will both sign a full, permanent, no-contact agreement with Vivian. You will not call her, text her, email her, or show up at her apartment or place of work, ever. You will also relinquish any and all future claims, real or imagined, to the property, its contents, and any proceeds from the sale, beyond the agreement we've outlined. And finally, point 3, Tessa said, her voice firm. You will both sign a formal, notarized acknowledgement, a copy of which is in that packet, stating that you are aware that Vivian Elaine Harper has been the sole, legal, and rightful owner of the property since her 30th birthday, and that all actions you took regarding the property after that date were done without her knowledge or consent." My father had his head in his hands, but my mother found her voice. "No," she spat. "This is insane. We're not signing this. You've poisoned her. This is all you, she said, jabbing a finger at Tessa. She's our daughter. She should be helping us. My father tried a softer route, his last, desperate play. Vivian, he said, his voice cracking. He finally looked at me, his eyes red and pleading. Please, think about the family bonds. We made mistakes. We were in fear. We were drowning in medical debt. We just borrowed against the house temporarily. We were always going to pay it back. It was never meant to go this far. The lie, the last, pathetic lie. I hadn't spoken yet. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. All the fear, all the guilt, was gone. I just felt empty. I have one question, Dad, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through all the legal talk. One question. Why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you tell me Grandma Eleanor left the house to me? The room was silent. He just stared at me. My mother looked away, at the wall, and in that silence, I had my answer. He couldn't say, because you would have said no. He couldn't say, because you were the safety net, not the heir. He couldn't say, because we didn't want you to have it. We wanted Mia to have it. He couldn't conjure a single answer that didn't sound exactly like theft. Tessa, seeing her opening, reached for her own binder. And you see, Russell, the "we were just borrowing" narrative doesn't quite hold up, she said, pulling out a printed sheet. She slid it onto the table. It was a printout of an email from Diane to Russell, dated 3 days after my 30th birthday. I'd found it in the email account I still had access to, the one I'd set up for them years ago. This is an email from you, Diane, to you, Russell, Tessa said. In it, you refer to the HELOC you're about to apply for as our secret lifeline, and then you write, and this is my favorite part. We just have to make sure Vivian never finds out about the trust language. She's too busy with her work. She'll never look. My mother's face went white. My father looked like he'd been shot. That, Tessa said, is not borrowing. That is conspiracy to commit fraud. That is intent. She leaned back in her chair. The threat was no longer implied. It was explicit. So here's the choice, Tessa said. You sign this settlement, you agree to the terms, you pay back the money you stole, you go away, and you never speak to Vivian again. In return, she agrees not to press criminal charges. We file this as a civil matter, and it's done. She paused, letting the alternative hang in the air. Or, she said, you can refuse, you can walk out that door, and I will immediately file a full criminal complaint with the state and federal authorities for bank fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy, and Vivian, as the primary victim, will consent to testify, and all of this, she tapped the email, becomes Exhibit A at your trial. My father cracked first. It was a small sound, a sob that caught in his throat. He realized prison was not a threat. It was a real, tangible possibility. His hands were shaking so violently he could barely pick up the pen. He fumbled with the cap, and he signed. He just signed, his signature a spidery, broken-looking scrawl. My mother sat there, frozen. She was scanning the document, her eyes darting back and forth, looking for a loophole, a hidden trap, but there was none. It was just the facts. Diane, Tessa said, her voice soft but final. It's over. My mother picked up the pen. Her hand was rigid. She signed her name. The loop on the D was an angry, sharp, defiant spike. She threw the pen down on the table, where it rattled against the microphone. I watched her sign. I watched the ink dry. And I felt the weight of 32 years of emotional blackmail, of being the placeholder, of being the safety net. Just shift. It was gone, on paper, in ink, in front of witnesses. The power dynamic was no longer a feeling. It was a legal fact. After they signed, they didn't look at me. My father stared at the tabletop, a man hollowed out. My mother just looked at Tessa, her eyes filled with a pure, acidic hatred. It was the look of a queen who had been permanently unthroned. and she was furious not that she had done wrong, but that she had been caught. They were escorted out by building security. I didn't go back to my apartment. I drove from Tessa's office to Evergreen Heights. I let myself in with my new key. The house was silent. It was the first time I had been truly alone in it, without the weight of their presence, their demands, their ghosts. I walked through the rooms, one last time, but this time was different. I wasn't the trapped caregiver. I wasn't the placeholder daughter. I was the owner, the sole proprietor, here to inspect my asset before liquidation. I stood in the kitchen, my kitchen. I ran my hand over the cold, smooth quartz countertop I had saved for 14 months to buy. I looked at the deep farmhouse sink I had installed. I remembered all the nights I'd stood right here, at 9 p.m., eating cereal for dinner out of a coffee mug because I was too exhausted to cook, too drained from my real job and my second, unpaid job as the family renovator. I'd be standing here, my back aching from hauling debris, and I would hear them in the living room, watching the television I'd paid for. I'd hear my mother complain that nobody ever helps her, that she never gets a break, all while I was actively paying her bills and rebuilding her house, on that same quartz counter, where my mother's stacks of bills and my father's medical forms used to live. There was now a single, neat manila folder. I opened it. It was the listing agreement from a trusted realtor, the best one in Spokane, the one Tessa had vetted. The house was going on the market next week, the price she had suggested, a price that reflected every single upgrade I had funded, made my stomach flip. It was a life-changing number. I walked into the living room. Over the fireplace, on the mantel I had sanded and restrained myself, sat the last remaining family photo. It was from a cousin's wedding 5 years ago. All 4 of us, dressed up, smiling. My mother's arm was around Mia, the golden child. My father's hand was on my shoulder. I picked it up. I had looked at this photo for years, seeing it as proof that we were, despite the dysfunction, a family. Now, I saw it with clear eyes. I saw a stage production. I saw the smiles, bought and paid for with my sacrifices. My mother's hand on Mia was a gesture of presentation. My father's hand on my shoulder wasn't a gesture of affection. It was an anchor, holding me in place, keeping the safety net taut. I felt nothing, no nostalgia, no profound sense of loss, just clarity. The family I had been trying to save had never actually existed. It was always just a brand they were trying to polish, and I was just the budget. I took the photo out of the heavy silver frame, folded it in half, and left it on the counter. The frame was going with the realtor. It was good staging. I took out my phone. I stood in the entryway and snapped one last photo, a final picture just for me, not of the family, not of the kitchen. I took a photo of the sunlight hitting the hardwood floors, the ones I had personally refinished over 4 agonizing weekends. The light came in through the new, energy-efficient windows I had replaced. It showed the clean lines of the open shelving I had designed. It was proof, not for a judge, not for the internet, but for my own memory. Proof that I could take something broken, something sagging and rotten and left for dead, and I could turn it into something solid, beautiful, and valuable. I walked to the front door for the last time. As my hand reached for the deadbolt, I glanced out the window, and my blood ran cold for a second. A car was idling at the end of the cul-de-sac, his SUV. She was in the driver's seat, Diane. She was just sitting there, watching the house. Even from 50 yards away, I could feel the desperate, toxic energy radiating from the car. She was hoping, after everything, the fraud, the lawyers, the settlement, she was still hoping. She was waiting for one last conversation, one last chance to cry, one last opportunity to rewrite the story and make herself the victim. Our eyes met. I saw her through the windshield. I saw her lean forward, her hands gripping the wheel. I just held her gaze. I didn't scowl. I didn't wave. I didn't offer her a single thing. Then, I calmly turned away from the window. I turned the deadbolt. I pulled the front door shut. The heavy, solid click of the new lock engaging echoed in the empty foyer. To me, it sounded like a full sentence. It sounded like, no more. I walked to my car, which was parked in the driveway. On the passenger seat was a large envelope, addressed to the realtor. I took the ring of new keys. The keys to the house I owned. The keys I had used to lock out the world, and I dropped them into the envelope. I licked the seal. My hand was perfectly steady. I had been bracing myself for this moment, for the breakdown, the movie-style sob session in the car, the overwhelming grief of losing my family. But it didn't come. As I put the car in reverse and pulled out of my driveway, I felt no tears, no dramatic breakdown, just relief. It was the feeling of finally putting down a backpack full of rocks, a backpack I'd been carrying for so long. I'd forgotten I wasn't born with it on. On the drive back to my apartment, my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Proud of you. Dinner next week. My treat? No legal talk. Just bad reality TV, and a truly disgusting amount of carbs." I smiled. A real, actual smile. It felt new. I realized, as I turned onto my street, that I didn't need the house. I didn't need to live in it to prove I had won. The house was never the point. It was just the battleground. The proof of my victory wasn't the deed. It was in the receipts. It was in the signed settlement. It was in the fact that, for the first time in my 32 years, when I was given the choice between their survival and my own, I chose myself. I parked in my rented spot and walked up the 3 flights of stairs to my modest apartment. As I unlocked my door, I noticed something. It didn't feel small or cramped. It felt light. I stepped inside. I looked at my tiny kitchen counter. There was no stack of threatening letters. There was no paperwork about someone else's financial crisis. My voicemail icon wasn't blinking with demands. There was just quiet. A real, peaceful, earned quiet. I sat at my desk, the one that looked out over the parking lot. I opened a fresh, new notebook, the kind I used for my best design projects. I opened it to the first clean, empty page. I picked up my favorite pen, and I wrote a single line at the top of the page. "This is my life. I decide who gets a key." Thank you all so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. So please drop a comment below and let's share our thoughts. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories, like this video, and show your support by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by others who need to hear it.